welcome to TYT Community Social Justice Show. I'm your host, Jeff Waldorf. Tonight we've got some great stories. We're counting down some of the best social justice stories of the week. We've got a lot of them, a lot of disastrous stuff, prison statistics. Oh boy, prison state. Disaster all around. People getting their houses taken. People in debt collection agencies. It's terrible out there, man. It's terrible. I'm going to tell you all about it. First off, I'm going to introduce my lone panelist for tonight. I'm just hanging out here with Sean, Fitzgerald from New York. Hey, Sean.
Good to be here, Jeff, as the most important panelist in community history.
Okay. Don't get ahead of yourself. Now, I heard you had a little bit of fun on Tom's show earlier today.
Yes, Tom Reynolds, wonderful program. I was so happy to be on. Everybody should check it out. He's a big supporter of our show too, Jeff.
Oh yes, he absolutely is. And of course, we love everybody who supports our show, and are very, very appreciative to everyone who's out there watching at home tonight or watches our clips.
And little known fact, I'm actually the most handsome man to ever appear on Tom's show, according to him, and that is not underscored or diminished in any way by the fact that it's not a video show.
And I cannot, I'm of course the only one who's bearded and can do stuff like this. If Dell is watching, he would know. He would know what that's all about. Tom, also, you would know what that's about. Epic beard time. Anyway, aside from the pleasantries, we shall get to the show. Great show tonight. And we're going to start out with Walmart. Yes, Walmart. Now, Walmart has a new dress code that's giving its workers a reason to frown. Under the new code, workers will have to wear a collared blue or white shirt and black or khaki pants, along with a Walmart vest that the company will provide. Oh, great, the company will provide it, so no problem. At least you get a free vest, right? Now, employees can use clothes that they already have, or what Walmart actually wants you to do is buy new clothes from Walmart. But they have to pay for them out of pocket, of course. Now, that's obviously a bit of a problem for Walmart workers, mainly because they get paid either minimum or slightly over the federal minimum wage. Now, one of the workers wrote management about the change and then shared it with Huffington Post. He wrote, "The sad truth is that I do not have $50 lying around the house to spend on new uniform clothes, just because Walmart suddenly decided to change its policy. If I have to go out of pocket for these new clothes, I'm going to have to choose which bill to skip." And he's not the only one that's got a problem with this. And these posts come from the Walmart internal website. Now, Gawker obtained these internal postings from an employee who leaked them to the site. One of them says, "With all due respect to the company, this is more of a financial burden to our family since this is our only source of income with my wife and 2 kids. We can hardly afford to live my income now with us having to pay for a new uniform. Aside from the vest, it's silly. The uniform we have now works. Why change it?" Well, that's a good question. Why change it? Maybe because it's cheaper for them. Who knows? Another comment reads, "I've been at Walmart 21 years, and I tend to keep buying better quality clothing other than the standard polo for a better appearance at work, and it seems like a waste of my money to keep changing the dress code, and we are not given any clothing allowance or given at least 2 shirts for free." That's pretty specific, but it would be nice if they actually did, have some sort of uniform allowance. That would be nice. A little inside baseball, I used to work at another chain store, and they actually did give us shirts for free to wear as part of our uniform. We still had to supply our pants, but it's a little bit better than having to supply everything. Now, there's another more serious comment about this, and it's about the overall workplace. Quote, working conditions at my store are atrocious. There's little coverage in any department to provide anything close to decent customer service. CSS at this store covers money center, run registers, and many other tasks because the staffing/hours given to associates is mediocre. I'm one of them. For 10 years, I gave all but my best efforts, and my voice are ignored. Sorry for this is reading it verbatim. My complaints, as well as other associates, seem not to matter one bit. Our registers and other equipment are slow and unreliable. I do not see how bringing back the vests, as if we're living in 1994, will change anything. There are real problems to solve in our stores. And this is just among a myriad of other complaints about shifting the cost burden over to the employees to pay for their own uniforms, as well as things that we've seen Walmart do: cut back on customer service, cut back on employee hours in order to avoid the Obamacare mandate, and basically cutting back on any sort of expense in order to justify more and more and more profit. Now, Sean, I think you probably have a few thoughts about this, so I'm going to throw it over to you.
Yeah, so we touched on this a little bit in a McDonald's story. I believe it was McDonald's, where they were making the employees clean the laundry, pay out of their check for the laundry bill of their uniforms. And I think all of us agreed on the panel that was something that the company should pay out of pocket themselves if they're not going to let their employees do it, like do their own laundry. And I feel like stronger about this than even that. Like, the Walmart, like, they already have their uniforms. They didn't give them the original like polos or the, what looks like polo shirts. So they already went out and bought those. And it just feels like somebody at Walmart thought, hey, we employ this many people. If this many people buy this many shirts, we'll make this much money. And it just seems wrong. And like the vest, people complaining about the vest, how it looks like a 90s thing, like that's irrelevant. Like, they're going to pay for that. If you don't want to wear a uniform that they're going to pay for, then like go find another job. But
well, yeah, but it wasn't so much the problem with the vest as the problem with, hey, we got some serious issues at this store. Why are we worried about changing the vests around, the uniforms around, and bringing this whole thing back?
I'm just saying there's a distinction between the vest and like the shirts that you're making them buy. You're making them buy college shirts, which are more expensive. You're gonna have to have more than one of them. Like, that's just a fact if you work there. And like, I've worked at a chain restaurant before, and they gave me at least my first shirt for free. Maybe my second, I don't even remember. I'm not exactly that sure. And then I had to pay like $5 to $10 to get the other ones if I wanted to have 5 uniforms. But the pants, they told me to bring in a black pair of pants. I already had 3 of them. It was like no big issue for me. Like, so like I can understand that that like they want you to wear certain color pants or whatever. Like, that's totally fine. But like a specific shirt that you have to pay for. Like, I know it has to be dark blue, but it's a specific shirt that these people might not already have that they have to pay for. Seems just completely ridiculous. And it's just like Walmart spitting on their employees yet again. And it's not like, we were talking about this in the pre-show, it's not like they work at the bank. It's not like they're being paid like a decent wage. Like, you work at the bank, they tell you to wear a collared shirt and a tie. Like, you're getting paid a good amount. Like, get a collared shirt and a tie. You had to wear a collared shirt to get a job at a bank, so like, you can do it. It's Walmart. They're paying them nothing, and Walmart employees already spend so much of their check at Walmart. It just seems cruel that you're just like gouging them a little more.
Right, and like, I don't think you and I have a problem with places that have like a uniform dress code, right? Something that's, for example, like you work in a nice office, you wear a suit, right? Or you wear something nice. But remember, this is Walmart, so that you don't really see the need for anything that like a fancy uniform. And so what this really comes down to is wage theft, and that's really the name of the game, and that's really the whole problem with this entire thing. Just as you pointed out, it's so that they can spend more money at Walmart, because as if they're not rich enough already, as if they don't make enough money off of poor people already, off their employees. And look, this Walmart's not the only one. You said you brought up McDonald's. There are other fast food restaurants do the same thing in different ways, like giving you dirty laundry that you have to take care of. The laundering costs yourselves for the uniform. Other than the one chain store that I've worked at that just made us supply khaki pants, everywhere else that I've worked either didn't have a uniform dress code or they supplied uniforms if you wanted them, which came out a little bit of extra in your check if you wanted them, and then they would wash them. And you'd pay a very small amount from your check, something like, I don't know, $7 a month or something like that to take care of the uniforms. And
that
this was from a pretty paying job, so it wasn't a big deal. But for people like Walmart, or who work at Walmart, who don't make very much money, it is a big deal.
And it's honestly it's shameful. Like I'm in favor of capitalism. I'm in favor of, like, if you don't like a uniform at a place, I say, you don't have to work there. Like, I'm in favor of, like, all this stuff, but, like, you're just, like, spitting on these people that already had to buy, like, the shirts that fit there. Like, if you've been working at Walmart, I can't imagine, like, how many of those stupid blue polos that you have, like, lying around your house, and now they're completely useless. Like, what am I going to do with 5 blue polos if I don't, like, have to wear them, like, consistently at a job? Like, I'm going to be the most awkward-looking person on my casual off days ever. Like, it's just a slap in the face, and, like, it's not illegal, or we don't think it's illegal, depending on wage theft type things, but it's horrible. Don't shop at Walmart.
Well, the NLRB will probably have to look into this. I don't know if they are or not, but they have been looking into allegations of wage theft, and hopefully, there's some sort of guideline put down, like, hey, maybe you shouldn't change your uniforms up every so often, or maybe you should pitch in, like, kick in a little bit if you want to change the employees' uniforms. Maybe something. I don't know. But there has to be some sort of fix for this. There has to be some sort of fairness put back into the system for people who are, working for these low-wage jobs. Because as we have now, the situation that we have now is people are getting screwed over just for no reason, and it's uniformly unfair.
I'm making this up, so I don't. If it does exist, I'm basing it not on fact. But eventually, Walmart's just going to have payday loans inside the store for their employees, like, so that they can buy the stuff that they need to work at Walmart.
Oh, you know what? That sort of brings me to something that's off topic. Cards, payday cards, right? Do you remember when McDonald's tried to institute a debit card or some sort of pay card where that your check gets loaded with that, and then in order to get your money off the check, bank fees?
Yeah, that is a textbook definition of wage theft. You have no other choice but to pay the fees to get your own money from them.
Exactly. It's gross, man. It's just kick in the face, kick in the pants. All right. Let's move on to something that's even worse. That says it all. All right. Let me get organized here, because this is a lot of shit. A Kalamazoo woman by the name of Deborah Kelly is losing her $160,000 home to the county of Kalamazoo, and that's located, of course, here in Michigan. Now, why would she be losing her home? Well, it's because of one missed tax payment. Yes, one missed tax payment. Miss Kelly bought this home in 2010 in cash, by the way. She paid for it in cash after suffering a car accident. Now, in 2012, when she went to go pay her property taxes, she was told that she still owed money from 2011. Now, she was a little bit surprised, a little bit confused by that, because she hadn't recently and she hadn't received any of the notices of a late payment that they sent out. And this is according to court documents obtained by WITI. All but one of these notices weren't addressed to her, which would explain why she didn't get the notices. They were addressed to a bank. But wait, if she paid for her home in cash, why is a bank's name on the home? Interesting. Why is a bank involved? Well, they asked her, and she said, well, I've never been affiliated with any of those banks on these statements, ever. And the one notice that she did get was addressed to both her and the bank at the same time. So the rest of the notices that she was sent for this late payment were addressed to just the bank. But this one had both her name and the bank on it. Now, this bank was called Title Check. Now, she said, quote, I know for a fact that it went back to this company called Title Check because I have a receipt from the person at Title Check who signed it at their address in Kalamazoo. So this story, really fishy. But the real problem is the back taxes, okay? So that's why this whole thing started, some back taxes. She missed a payment, right? So surely the county would give her a chance to pay up, right? Oh, you probably guessed already where this is going. The county says that they will not accept payments. Yes, the county says, nope, you cannot pay this debt off. It's too late. We're already auctioning your house off. And, by the way, we'll be keeping all the money for it. Taking her home over one late tax payment and auctioning her home off and keeping all the money from it. In fact, from what we know, there is already a bid on it for $80,000. Remember, this is a $164,000 house. And there's already a bid up for about half of it, which she will not see any cent of, by the way. So before I throw it to Sean, I did a little digging, okay, and just to see how much she would have owed for that back tax payment that she had missed. Now, this woman is losing her $164,000 home, as I said, over a roughly $6,000 unpaid property tax bill from 2011. That's not including, fees and such, which I'm sure are substantial. But $6,000. She owned that home free and clear. She paid cash for it. And now it's gone. And the county of Kalamazoo is set to make at least $80,000 off of this home. They're cashing in, man. This is a windfall for them, and a huge loss for her. Sean, what do you think?
So my brain went a little haywire when I first saw this story. The first thing I thought of was this is kind of a weird eminent domain abuse case, because the county can put a lien on her house. They can garnish your wages if you owe back taxes. They have ways of getting $6,000 from you, but as they do in eminent domain cases, they say it's more advantageous for the state if they take your property and get more revenue from it in another way, and or in eminent domain cases, it's more tax revenue if they sell it to a bigger developer. In this case, it's for literally selling her home. So it's super it's definitely wrong, and I definitely don't agree with it. But it brings up an inherent conflict of interest that the state has, is that they have the authority to say we're not accepting payments, and at the same time stand to gain substantially from selling her home, more than they would ever get from her. And she basically, we were talking about this earlier, she basically paid the home in cash, so she had money. She wasn't one of these people who quote unquote defrauded the banks, because they're the ones who are suffering, out of a mortgage and got into debt that she couldn't pay. She paid the home in cash. She's from what we could tell, an upstanding citizen, and she's basically being punished because there is no bank overlording over the house. The bank wouldn't let the state steal this house from her, and she's being punished for not having that connection, and it's just wrong. Like it's not right.
Yeah, and what's so weird about this, and I want to stress it, is why her notices were getting sent to banks when the bank had no mortgage over that house. There was nothing. She was free and clear. It's almost as if they wanted to punish her for not being part of that banking system, for not getting out a mortgage. It's just so it's so strange. And I can't really wrap my head around how they would get involved in
My
this whole
my
thing.
my guess is that the property tax department or whoever collects this revenue is so used to sending out letters to the bank that they just do automatically send it out to the bank in order to get their money, and like they didn't think that this newly sold house couldn't have been with a bank. That's why they send them to a bunch of local banks. But I don't know about you, Jeff. If I get a letter addressed to me saying that I owe money with my name and a bank or financial institution I'm not affiliated with it, I think that's like fraud or somebody trying to scam me. And there's a reason I wouldn't open it. So like they don't have the one letter that she did get. It's not like she got 100 of them. The one letter that she did get could have easily been dismissed as a scam. Like the government like what hopefully was just incompetent in informing her of the money that she owed. Like worse off would be that they were like had sinister intentions. But regardless of the fact, they are being cruel and they are being sinister now. And so whatever started this, the incompetence, the sinisterness, is irrelevant. Like they did the wrong thing in getting her money. She owes the money. She's willing to pay it, and they're doing the wrong thing right now by taking her house.
Right. I think it is incompetence starting out at first, and then being opportunistic. Like, oh, we can make this much money from the sale of this house. Why don't we do it? Who's gonna stop us? Who's gonna challenge us? Right? There aren't a lot of protections for, I mean, people in general, and we're really going to get into that in the next story about how few protections there really are and how people can just get destroyed for having a past due debt.
And the thing is like just the way this woman must feel. Like she bought a home. Like we don't know if the money came from like her accident settlement or anything like that. But she bought a home, like she wanted to be secure in it, and like you think you're good, you think everything's all right, and you don't realize that the way you paid for your home makes you vulnerable to people in the state. Like I said before, if she had a bank backing her up, the bank would be fighting for this because the bank wouldn't want to lose this house. And it's sad that like somebody who like for all we know does all the right things, is not in any debt or anything like that, is just being taken advantage of by her own government.
Indeed. But it doesn't get any happier from here, folks. Who says we don't cover the big issues? Debt collection in America is a multi-billion-dollar industry, racking up just last year $13 to $14 billion. And there are roughly about 77 million Americans whose debts are past due, and are in an industry now that's built upon extracting money from these people in any way possible. For example, there's a couple profiled in an NPR piece recently that have, because of their debts, they're garnished $760 a week from their paycheck. I'm sorry, a month. They're garnished $760 a month from each paycheck. Wow, that's a lot of money. Now, this is for some of the debts, about $20,000 worth of medical debt. Now, medical debt is one of the biggest drivers of debt and bankruptcy here in America now these days, pretty close to student loans, which have, of course, surpassed pretty much everything, maybe other than credit card debt. And, of course, a laptop loan that the husband had taken out after high school, so you wanted to get a laptop. But it's not just garnishments that these companies can do. They can also go after your bank accounts. For example, the same family has had their bank accounts completely seized and emptied by debt collectors. And this happened at least twice to them. Now, this is legal, by the way. This is legal because because banks weren't addressed in a 1968 law called the Consumer Credit Protection Act. Now, that did put some limits on wage garnishment, but left bank accounts out. So what's the limit, by the way, when it comes to garnishment? Well, that limit is about 25% of your income. So yes, if you have a debt that's being garnished, it can take a quarter of your income. Unfortunately, the law also doesn't help people unless they're extremely poor. Well, how poor? Really poor. Because you see, when it was passed, it was tied to the minimum wage. The minimum wage back then, in 1968, was somewhere around, in our dollars today, about $10 an hour. $10.26, I believe. Now that minimum wage is about $7.25 an hour, you have to be extremely poor in order to be protected from garnishment. And how poor is that? Well, you have to make less than $217 a week. Now, what does that come up to? That's about $10,500 a year. Yes, $10,500 a year. If you are above that, sorry, you're going to get a quarter of that income garnished if you have an outstanding debt. And here in America, 77 million of us do have that outstanding debt. Not only that, but once again, they can scoop out your entire bank account. But it's not just money that can be seized and paychecks garnished, but they can also take your property. They can seize that to help pay for unpaid debt. Oh, look at that. You got a decent car? Let's just take that. Get a nice gift from a friend? It's ours now. This whole thing has the possibility of making you poorer than if you were making less than $10,500 to begin with. And need I mention the fact that prices for just necessities have risen a lot in the past 40, 50 years. And that just shows that Americans, these people who are the most vulnerable, are in for even more of a world of hurt. John?
Yeah, so I'm supposed to say that, you know what, you're supposed to pay your debts, you're supposed to pay your consumer debts, and I will say that. You are supposed to pay your debts, you are supposed to pay your consumer debts. But there's one caveat to that, is that there is a responsibility in a free market system on the behalf of the borrower and the lender. The lender has to assess credit, and sometimes as a lender you lose money. Like, this seems like it was originally a consumer protection, and now it has become a lender protection. And anytime you have lender protections like we had in the housing market, like we have in the student loan market, of course now the federal government's a direct lender, you get excessive lending or lender-induced fraud. And I'm not saying that's particular to this case, but the other thing you get is a disincentive, as you disincentivize negotiating down the debt. Like, I've had family members that are in debt. I'm sure everybody has had family members that are in debt. 77 million Americans is not insignificant. And after a while, your creditors try and negotiate a settlement, and usually they knock off some of the interest. They ask for a lump sum, and like and you guys can work it out like that. You'll take a hit on your credit, but like it's a fair exchange to stop the monthly payments and stuff like that. And a lot of people do enter into these debt settlements. This being able to garnish 25% of somebody's wage totally disincentivizes that negotiation process. And like it's just you in a capitalist system, you need to have incentives on both parties to have good behavior, not just the consumer. And I feel like this has been tilted by this regulation far too much toward the lender, and that it negatively impacts the market and the consumers.
Well, here's some more information about the 1968 Credit Act. Is that originally Democrats in Congress were asking for a 10%. You can't garnish more than 10%. Republicans in Congress said, nope. Actually, I believe it was the Senate version had no limit. The House version had 10%. They came to a conclusion of 25%. And once again, having a quarter of your income being taken when you're already low income, this primarily hits people who are between 25 and 40,000. That's where a lot of this debt factors into, and people in between that income bracket. So it does really impact people on the lower edge of the scale, the Walmart workers, the people who are working fast food, minimum wage, etc., families. And
by the way, just to clear something up, that 25% itself is misleading, because they calculate the percentage on your gross income, then they take your taxes out, and then they take 25% of your gross income out.
Which is even worse.
Yeah, it's more. It's of your take-home pay. It's significantly more.
Mm-hmm. And what goes along with that is the fact that these people have less and less money because more is being taken out, and also the prices of things have risen by such a large amount, especially since 1968. These rules are very outdated and they're very draconian, and they're very harmful for the economy and for people at large. I mean, if people, weren't getting that much garnished from them, or made a little bit more to be able to pay off those debts, that would allow more money to get back into the economy. And that would be a generally good thing. So these rules need updating badly.
And look, neither Jeff or I are saying that. I don't know about Jeff, but I'm pretty sure he'd agree with this. Are saying that people who borrow money should borrow irresponsibly. All we're saying is, or all I'm saying specifically, is that the lender should be incentivized to lend responsibly, and there should be, in case of situations where debt gets out of control, an incentive for both parties to come to the table and negotiate in good faith and on a semi-equal plane.
And let's not forget that this isn't just about people who borrow money. There is a significant chunk that borrow money for things like student loans, which can't be discharged through bankruptcy. I understand that. Car loans, home loans, etc. There are a significant amount of people who fall under this from borrowing, debts that they couldn't repay. But then there are also the people that get into debt through no fault of their own. And that's where the medical debt comes into play. And that's what plagued this specific couple that were covered in the NPR story. And that's where a significant amount of people really fell into that kind of debt, is because they didn't have good insurance. Something major happened to them, cancer, sickness, surgery, etc., etc. I mean, all of that's bad enough on its own, the medical bills, and then not being able to work alongside of it, that can get you into crippling debt fast. So it's not just about people who are irresponsible with their borrowing. It is about things that happen to people and happen all the time through no fault of their own. So there's definitely a mixture of that, and I didn't want to let this segment go without making sure to remind everyone of that. All right. So, do we want to go for the war on white men? Of course we do. This is amazing. Barbed Wire editor and columnist Gina Miller took a page out of the old Blame the Victim handbook during an appearance on, quote, Mission America to discuss the very real issue of campus sexual assault. And she had this to say.
the entire platform of the left has this hatred for males, especially white males, as you know. And so we have seen this for many, many decades. I watch old movies and I listen to old-time radio shows, even back in the 50s. It was beginning. You can see portraying the father of the family as dumb and stupid while the wife and the kids are smart. This stuff has been going on for a long time, and now there is just this palpable hatred for men. And, of course, as you point out, and as I do in my column, it's always wrong. Yeah. Actual rape is a terrible thing, and no one is saying that these men are not accountable. But I, at the same time, hold women responsible for when they put themselves, present themselves in slutty attire at a drunken frat party, and then expect these frat boys to behave like gentlemen. It's nonsense.
What is your, when you hear the term war on women? I mean, I want to scream when I hear that term. It is so completely wrong. I think of a war on unborn babies. I think of the war on common sense, the war on Christianity. I do not think there is a war on women. What do you think?
Well, no, the war on women is a lie. Okay, the lie, the big lie, is out there, and it's pretty much everything that comes from the left is a lie. And in this sense, the war on women is a completely fabricated, made-up thing. There is actually a war out there. It's a war against all humanity, led by the devil himself. And I mean, there is a war. There's a real war on white males in this nation. You know, the war. There are plenty of real wars against humanity, but the so-called conservative or Republican war on women is a fallacy. It's a fantasy.
Led by the devil himself.
Yeah, a war on common sense. I can actually see how that might be true. But I think you're on the wrong side of that one, too. I think you're on the wrong side of every one of these. Quote, the war on women is completely fabricated, made-up thing. There's a war out there. It's a war led by the devil himself. So the actual war on women, or should I say, the war on reproductive rights, fair pay, health care, and all that, no, that's fake. That doesn't exist. But a war led by the devil, that's real. Yeah, okay. All right. Sure.
Yeah, I just wanted to say on behalf of the white male nation, although I'm not all the way white, I have what we call passing privilege, because I look pretty white. I feel very victimized by women and liberals and minorities. Like, okay, I can't even get through that. Like, honestly, it's pretty obvious to anybody who's paying attention that as a white person in general and as a male, you have certain advantages or privileges over other minority groups. Just perceptions that are subconscious in other people's minds. It's not really about conscious racism or anything, but you have certain advantages. So the idea that there's a war on white men, and that's evident by sitcoms portraying the dad as the dumb guy and the wife as the smart one. People love Homer Simpson. They don't hate him. People love Peter Griffin. They don't hate him. I know those are cartoons, but the same thing is with the dumb fathers. Everybody loves Raymond. The wife is much smarter than Raymond is. People like that male character. They're even the stars of the show. Oh my god. As for the slutty attire thing, normally I'll draw a distinction between people who I feel are trying to help by giving tips to avoid dangerous situations without victim blaming. This is not one of those cases. This woman is 100% victim blaming. You can't expect to wear. You can't go out wearing that and expect frat boys to behave like gentlemen. I understand you can't. You don't expect frat boys to behave like gentlemen, but you should not expect them to rape you based on what you're wearing. This is so fucking obvious, and it's the feminist thing about how they hate white males. It's not the case. I know a feminist. And I have, she's a good friend of mine, and she doesn't hate white males. She'll talk about white privilege, she'll talk about all the things that scare this woman, but she doesn't hate white males. She hates the idea of people having been raped and people being oppressed. Like it's not hard to figure out. So this woman's ridiculous. Of course, she had to carry out the line with the devil itself is waging war on humanity. We had the war on life and the war on unborn children and the war on common sense. And the thing is, if you were going to say that the war on women is a talking point that's overused, I'd probably agree with that. Like, I don't think that Republicans are sitting around in a circle saying we have to get women. I think they're sitting around in a circle and they don't understand how to talk to people. And they're obsessed with abortion. But I don't think that is like spawned by a conscious hate of women.
Right. They're obsessed with regulating vaginas for some reason, and it doesn't come from a hatred standpoint. I don't think it comes from a misunderstanding standpoint of like, hey, maybe we should ensure that women get paid equally to men for doing the same exact job. But anyway, once again, I'm a white male. I don't notice any war going on. For someone who's apparently the world is at war with, I'm doing pretty good. Maybe that's because we're winning. I don't know. Seems to be going pretty well for us.
Yeah, we're obviously conquering and pillaging.
No, obviously, but no, this whole idea of the war on men, the war on masculinity, that's ridiculous. Look, if you want to talk about gender stereotypes that affect both men and women negatively, we can have that conversation. That's a good conversation worth having. Gender norms, etc., etc., etc. But where she comes off the rails is pretty much, well, she was never on the rails at all. Like, if you want to have a conversation of how, men aren't given a fair shake when it comes to parental rights in divorce court, in divorce proceedings, we can have that conversation. That's a good conversation worth having, right? Because you can make a lot of good points when it comes to certain things, certain inequities in the system that do affect men. But generally, overall, men are doing pretty fucking good. And, we need to bring the women up to par, up to equality as well.
And by the way, women are doing better, and that is not to the detriment of men. Like,
right.
Like it's we had this discussion, kind of similar lines discussion with Haven. Like, we wouldn't be hurt by third world countries becoming wealthier. We wouldn't be hurt by women doing better economically, moving into different industries like that. Like, people are consumers, yes, but they are also producers. Women producing more is better for you. So it's totally ridiculous. And like, just to reference one tiny study, you remember the dating study, Jeff, of who gets messaged back the most?
Enlighten me.
Oh, so for women it was Asian women, and then white women, like, they get messaged most by men. Guess which category men got messaged back the most? I mean, obviously it's black men, right? Because there's a war on white men. There's no way it could have been them.
Of course.
No,
obviously,
it was white males. So unconsciously, and it was by 3 separate racial groups of women, white males were being messaged back the most, and white males are promoted in the media. Like I'm saying, it's an unconscious thing, it's a subconscious thing, not a conscious thing. Like, white males get messaged back more. We've seen the eBay study. If you have a white hand and you're selling something versus a black hand, you will get more emails if you're a black person to check if you're real than a white person. There are certain privileges, and pointing them out is not declaring war on me. I don't know. Jeff doesn't feel like it's declaring war on him. Like, we're not victims. We're doing okay, and we're not afraid of women who don't want to be raped. Like,
yeah, we're doing pretty good, Gina. As white men, I don't think we really need to go to bat for us. We're doing all right on our own.
Thanks for the effort, Lo. No, but in all seriousness, like, how could, like, Jeff, how would we really be threatened by, like I don't understand how we're threatened by exposure of sexual assault and all this stuff. Like, those are positive things. I don't want women to be victimized.
Right, and here's the thing that kind of upset me about the campus sexual assault thing. You can't expect, wearing that. You can't expect to go into a party wearing that and not get assaulted. Yeah, maybe you should be able to expect that, because maybe you should teach the boys that it's not okay in any circumstance to rape a woman. It doesn't matter. Like, she's sending the wrong message. Like, hey, if this girl's wearing something slutty, then obviously. And by the way, what is dressing slutty? That's really subjective. By the way, so I mean that's important to point out. But that's essentially saying, boys, if that girl's wearing something slutty, free reign, have at it. It's up to girls, to protect themselves, and it's basically putting the onus on women to protect themselves from these guys that are going to take advantage. Well, maybe you should teach the men not to take advantage.
Yeah, dressing quote unquote slutty is not the equivalent of playing Russian roulette. Like, there should not be that level of danger from wearing an outfit. Like honestly, and the thing that makes it more insidious is that she is a woman, and like, not that I believe that many males are listening to her specifically, but she's putting out a message that will get parroted, like, oh, she's dressing like that, that means she wants this. Like, it's stop. Like, if I ever have a kid, I'll never have a kid. But if I ever have a kid and he turns out to be a son, I'm going to teach him what consent is and what consent isn't, and that's what we should do.
Mm-hmm. And like, you also got to teach them what respect is and what respect isn't. And these people they're not sending out that message of how to respect women and how to get respect from women. And it's not anything that she's spouting. She's just spouting pure bullshit. Pure dangerous bullshit, by the way. All right.
But Jeff, since there's two women on the panel, it obviously must be true.
Mm. Yeah, every time they come on, I'm victimized. You know that, right? Every time. It's that war. All right. More depressing news. Once again, in 2013, America took home the title of the country with the largest prison population in the world. Yes, beating out Iran, North Korea, China, and of course, everyone else, both in raw numbers and percentage of population in prison. As of December 31st, 2013, it was recorded that more than 1.57 million people sat behind bars in federal, state, county prisons and in local jails. Over half of those people were there longer than a year, and they were there for drug crimes. Yes, half of those people were there for drug crimes. More depressing statistics, African Americans, of course, are 6 times more likely than white men to be in prison. No racism right there, right? And Hispanic men are 2.4 times more likely, according to an analysis of the data. You remember that stat where I said that over 1.57 million people were behind bars last year? Well, that's just a conservative estimate. A lot more people are putting that number to around 2.4 million because of the people that are there for stints less than a year. And that, of course, doesn't include other factors like, I don't know, immigration detention as well. But wait. According to Pew, 1 in 31 Americans are in the correction system on parole, probation, or incarceration. So that number could even be higher. So, land of the free, huh?
It's so stupid. Like, can we stop locking people up for things? Like, I mean, like, if you commit a real crime, I want you to serve a real sentence. Like, I know that's obvious. I mean, like, if you see a girl at a frat party, I don't care how slutty she's dressed, and you rape her, I want you to serve a very long sentence. Like, despite what the woman from our last story claims. But if you're doing something non-violent, or more importantly, victimless, then that should be a non-crime and you should get out. And one of the things that we were talking about earlier was the fact that the state of California, the largest state in the union in terms of population, is legally obligated to reduce their prison population. The state of Texas is supposedly going through this big effort under conservative Governor Rick Perry to reduce prison population. And we're still seeing more and more people get arrested and more people get locked up. And the probation and parole system, like, those are better alternatives to incarceration. But, like, I would also like to save those for actual real crimes, like, that have victims. You know, like robbery, murder, rape, theft, fraud. Like, all those crimes have, like, victims, people who are harmed.
Yeah, but obviously when you smoke a joint, you're victimizing yourself. So obviously you should be locked away so you don't harm yourself again.
Yeah, you should be a good American and do normal drugs like smoke cigarettes, which is it's way safer for you than marijuana, and
or drink alcohol.
Binge drink a ton of alcohol. And hey, if you want to drive on that alcohol, totally fine. Like, that's a legal product. It's obviously safe. You should also do a bunch of prescription drugs. Like oxycodone or Oxycontin is not more addicting than heroin. Like, you should just have fun with that. Like, be a legal, solid American, like Rush Limbaugh.
Yeah. Do all the drugs you want. Have a ball. Oh, but just make sure they come in a prescription bottle from Big Pharma. This, as you've probably guessed, a lot of this comes down to the drug war. We have such a high prison population because of our idiotic war on drugs. And we've got these mandatory minimums, right, which are somewhere around a year. And so that a lot of these, it's not surprising that over half of these people are in there for drug crimes. And then, of course, it's a majority of it is African Americans and Latinos, which is funny because there are a lot of studies that say that African Americans, Latinos, and white people do drugs at about the same rate, yet African Americans are 6 times more likely to be put into prison for doing the same goddamn thing. Look, we talked about white privilege in the last segment. This is a perfect example of that. Institutionalized racism, white privilege.
Well, to be fair, Jeff, we're providing black and Latino men really affordable housing at a higher rate than we're providing white men, like, right? That would be. There's no white privilege here. No, but in all seriousness, huh?
It's that war on white male that's going on.
Exactly. We don't get to go in those prison cells as much as our black and my people in my family, my Hispanic counterparts. But yeah, it's ridiculous. What I want to see is 2 things. One is California legalize pot, because that's going to be the only. It's a huge state, and that will be the only thing, because the Supreme Court apparently can't reduce their prison population. That will actually reduce their prison population. And the other thing I kind of like to see is the Fugitive Pot Act. That if you're arrested for a marijuana crime in a shitty state like Georgia or Texas, or Louisiana, somewhere where you could get like life for your 3rd strike, I want to see people fleeing to Colorado and Colorado providing them some kind of asylum, because it's legal in some states and you can get life in prison, and sometimes it's life without parole. Like, thing that should be served. I mean, depending on your position on the death penalty, I'm against. The thing that should be reserved for the worst of the worst is being used against people who commit a crime with no victim, hence a non-crime. Like, it's amazing. It's literally amazing how insane our criminal justice system is, and no wonder we have so many people in the system. And but I feel safer knowing that all those non-violent people are off the streets. Don't you, Jeff?
Right, because they're not harming themselves with. You got to keep them away from themselves in order to harm themselves, or so they don't harm themselves. Wait, but if they're in prison, then they're also with themselves.
Hey, Jeff, did you know that drugs can ruin your life? So, stop you from doing drugs, we'll throw you behind bars, and that will totally not ruin your life. It's so stupid. Like, honestly, we've done this story over and over again.
Oh, yeah.
It's so fucking dumb. Like, we're not served by having the greater prison population. We're not more awesome than any other country. If anything, we're in a group of countries like Iran and Saudi Arabia, and Russia. I'm thinking of the death penalty, but we're in countries like that. We're way ahead of them. The only country that we're not sure if we're way ahead of is North Korea, because we don't have accurate statistics from them. But it doesn't help us. It doesn't help our society to have creative people, normal people who experimented with drugs at certain ages, not being able to work. Because this just says this has the drug offenders, but it doesn't say the people who got a felony drug conviction and then couldn't get a job, so then they decided to turn to other crimes. Like, there's more effects on our broader criminal justice system that are disastrous from this drug war, and it's just so dumb. Can we have a rule that you point to the victim and I will give you a fucking crime? Like, that should be the rule. And you can't victimize yourself.
Would it be fair to say that we have a higher prison population than Iran and North Korea? Well, we assume North Korea and China, because some of those countries probably kill more people in the death penalty. Would that be fair? Look, even if you say that, that still doesn't compare, I think. Because I'm pretty sure Texas is the execution capital of the world as well.
No, I don't think they're the execution capital of the world, because
they should be close.
There are a bunch of capital. It takes a lot to execute. Even in Texas, it takes a lot of appeals and stuff to execute people. But we're definitely the prisoner kings in terms of per capita and raw numbers, which is amazing. Like, we're 1/5 of the world's population. Like, there's great things that the United States has done with 1/5 of the world's population. Produced 1/4 of the world's wealth. That's amazing. Produced more prisoners than any other place in the world. That's wrong, and we should not do that. Americans are not genetically different from Canadians. We're not genetically different from Mexicans. We're not genetically. I'm naming our neighbors. We're not genetically different from Europeans, except for Englishmen. Like, we're not genetically different from them. I'm just kidding.
One piece of good news that might come from this is that Eric Holder, the head of the Department of Justice, has been looking into trying to get rid of some of these, or stop the practice of mandatory minimums, or at least reduce the prevalence of using mandatory minimums when it comes to sentencing for drugs. So that would be a positive development, but it's still important to bring these statistics up every year, because it's not getting better, and it gets how many other outlets are covering the prison population. You don't see very many that are covering these numbers, and I think a lot of people are like, oh wow, well that's amazing. Like, the land of the free actually has the most prisoners in the world. Well, what the hell? What gives?
Are you saying that the prisoners don't have a good enough lobby group, Jeff?
That's what I'm saying. Although the prisons do have an excellent lobby.
Right.
No, I wonder how much the involvement of money in politics and lobbying has to do with all this.
It's not only that. Like, a lot of issues trace back solely to money in politics, but this also traces back to how Americans vote. Like, you need to stop electing prosecutors. Yeah, you need to stop electing prosecutors to be governors, attorney generals to be governors. You need to stop electing people based on their conviction rate. Like, I know that's an oversimplification, but you really need to think about it. If you keep electing prosecutors because they had a great conviction rate, they're going to pass laws that make it easier for them to convict, be tough on crime. Like, you have to think this radical concept. You have to think maybe being smarter with crime is better than being tougher on crime. And mandatory minimums to me are absolutely disgusting. Like, to me, a judge is supposed to use this crazy foreign concept. You guys might not have ever heard of it. It's based on some word that you guys might not be familiar with. They have to use this thing called judgment when determining a sentence, and mandatory minimums are so stupid. We can have guidelines. We can have maximums. I love maximums, like a limit to what the judge can give you, but I despise minimums, except for the basic misdemeanor under a year, felony over a year. Like, other than that, I fucking hate mandatory minimums, and I think we need dramatically more leeway for judges. And if they start fucking up, then you can hold the judges accountable by holding the politicians accountable.
Right. All this says is that we need dramatic change, and this issue isn't going away if we ignore it. This issue is still going to be here, and that's why we need to do something about it. That's why we need to end the drug war, eliminate, basically mandatory minimums by just saying, look, we're going to decriminalize. You don't have to necessarily legalize, but it should at least on the federal level decriminalize drugs like that.
You know I want full legalization. And the one more thing, I just want to say it because I know Jeff was thinking it. It's time that we legalized freedom.
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 Well played, Sean. Well played. All right. Last story of the night, and it's a doozy. You can take that in so many different ways. I'll leave that up to you in your imaginations at home. Steve Doocy of Fox and Friends is literally trying to be the dumbest person in television. Now, I want you to check out this clip where they talk about ID cards for undocumented immigrants, where he was talking with Geraldo Rivera. Now, check out this clip.
Bill de Blasio ran for mayor. One of the things he promised was there would be a so-called New York City municipal ID, and you can use it to vote in local and state elections. It's predominantly for illegals, and there are 500,000 here in New York
I prefer
City.
the term undocumented.
Okay, it's for undocumented people who are illegally in the country.
Steve, I prefer illegal.
Anyway,
you may.
He's the
But
guy.
you can't use it. You can't use it to vote.
Yes, you can in local and state elections, not federal.
I don't think.
I think you can.
No, you get free admission to
That's the new part. Now there's
cultural
incentive to get more people to sign up.
I do not believe you can use this to vote. I absolutely do not believe that is. Let me just.
You don't think it's a transition?
I do not. Well, that's a different issue, Elizabeth. And let me just put this in perspective. We are by far the largest city in the country, 8.4 million people. We have over 500,000 undocumented immigrants in the 5 boroughs of New York.
Right.
To give you an idea, proportionally, that is the population, the entire population of Atlanta or Tucson or Las Vegas. We have as many undocumented as those entire cities. How can we have 500,000 people in this city and not know who they are?
Right.
So just taking inventory would make an ID an appropriate and talk about prudent method for government. Now, giving
so they
them
should not be able to use it to vote.
That is absolutely
I think
illegal.
they can.
Because I think that they can, with no proof. Look, when Geraldo Rivera is the smartest person in the room, look, okay, in all fairness, he is right. Now, we do have an issue with people that are undocumented. Basically, one of the problems is they pay into government services. They never get anything back, and there's a lot of things that they're held back from being able to do. Hence, comprehensive immigration reform. That'd be a fantastic idea if they did that. But I think, more importantly, this whole thing touches on their fears, and that's undocumented immigrants sneaking across the border to vote for Democrats, obviously. See, a pathway to citizenship as well. They're also scared as hell of that because that, of course, would lead newly Americanized immigrants to vote for Democrats. It all comes down to we put all of our eggs in the white people being majority basket, so we're kind of racist about it. Now, since we're not going to be a majority anymore, we're fucked because we only know how to appeal to racists and use the Southern strategy, and that's why we can't do anything about this. Now, like I said, Geraldo was actually right. You got to give him some credit here for actually explaining some actual facts, and the fact that, no, Steve, you douchebag, you cannot actually use this card to vote. That is pure propaganda. It's not true. And he gets credit for using the word undocumented instead of illegal. and explaining, like I said, to Ducey that no, giving New Yorkers, undocumented New Yorkers, this card is not going to make them go out and vote for Democrats en masse.
Can I just point out the obvious as a New Yorker who is registered to vote? You don't need any form of ID to vote. We don't have voter ID laws. So the idea that this ID card would give you the power to vote is patently false based on that. We have the normal system where you sign your name. We don't have a big thing of voter fraud. And, like, what is Steve Ducey afraid of? That New York might vote Democratic in the next election? Like, I got news for you. That's going to happen anyway. Like, it's so stupid. Like, and also, I like how Steve Ducey is trying to be the dumbest person on the show. It's really, really hard with Kill Me there. Even in that clip, he's like, I prefer illegals. I know I just did a George Bush there. And the thing is I actually kind of have a soft spot in my heart for Kill Me because I think he's a stupid guy who's trying to be funny. Like, he has horrible positions, political positions, when he's being serious. But sometimes I feel like he's trying to be funny. And that's kind of a funny line right there after somebody says, I prefer this, and then he immediately changes what he said. And, like, it's kind of funny to throw it in there in a lighthearted morning show. But, like, the substantive part, of course Geraldo Rivera is right. And I actually give Geraldo a little more credit than you do. Like, he was a real reporter for a long time. He does do international stuff. He's not the biggest genius because he did the Al Capone's Vault thing, and he gave away the United States military's position during the Iraq War. Although I'm pretty sure that was the graphic more than him specifically. And but like Geraldo's a good guy on certain marijuana issues, on certain race issues. Like, he got into a lot of trouble over the hoodie comment and the Trayvon Martin thing, but that, to me, that was more of a misinterpretation of what he was trying to say than something vicious like Ducey or Kill Me, or something stupid like Ducey or Kill Me, or something nonsensical that's just being fed into their brains because they can't think for themselves, like who are those two guys, like Ducey and Kill Me would do. Like, Geraldo, I think, is a real person who just works in the media.
Now, I'm going to assume Geraldo is actually more of the libertarian stripe. Would I be incorrect at assuming that? Some of his positions?
On some cases, he's hawkish on foreign policy, like, a lot. Like, he's not crazy. He's not like invade, but he's like.
Well, he's not John McCain then.
Airstrikes, kill ISIS. Like, he's bad on a lot of issues, but he seems like more of a normal person, or even a normal conservative leading person, like not a mindless zombie. Like who are those two guys? Like Ducey and Kill Me.
The two people in the room that couldn't share a brain cell between them. Yeah, man, I'm telling you, Steve Ducey is going to win Idiot of the Year award. If he keeps this up, man, he's doing really good. And he's got this I don't know how to put it. This really, like, idiot sidekick vibe, I think, is what you get. What I tend to get from him, like you're so dumb, but it's kind of adorable. You know what I mean?
This is what we need to get into, because to me, Ducey's the bumbling idiot, right? And Kill Me's the idiot. So, like, it really is a choice of who's going to get that award just on that show. And I feel bad because there's a female co-host there that I can never remember her name, because there's just these two morons next to her all the time that are just headline grabbing. They're like attention whores. I mean, she probably gets paid a decent amount because, like, this is ratings for them, because you got to see these two idiots in action. But
oh yeah,
like, it's hey,
just. You know what? If creating a good morning show, I think they've actually succeeded by putting the bumbling idiot and the idiot on the morning. So I think that, like, who doesn't want to wake up and laugh?
Exactly, wake up with laughter. And so it really, like, they're both idiots. Geraldo's right in this case. Geraldo's right on a good amount of on a decent amount of stuff, and I believe he's honest on more stuff, even stuff I disagree with. But he's just confronted with stupidity.
Yeah,
And he has a wonderful mustache that also biases me. Like, let's keep it real. And his name is Geraldo. It's so powerful.
Like, you'll give him more credit than I do, but still, credit deserved. Where credit is earned, credit given where credit is earned. Actually, for saying no, that's not right at all. Like, he has these moments of where he'll be like, no, that's not right at all. Here's what I think about this. And you do kind of have to appreciate the fact that he did set it right, and once again says, I don't like the term illegals. They're undocumented immigrants, which actually affords them a modicum of humanity, as opposed to illegals.
There is one more thing, and one more thing that we should give Geraldo credit for. How many times does Fox bring a black person on when they want to say something bad about black people, a woman on when they want to say something bad about women? They bring the Latino guy on, Geraldo Rivera, like there's no mistaking where this guy hails from, and he's like, no, that's not right, and you shouldn't talk like that. Like, so I give him a lot of credit on that because he didn't play the Fox News minority role.
Right. And the funny thing is, what it makes me think of back to an episode of O'Reilly, where he brought on that black guy, and he's like, suppose you're a crack dealer and you kind of look like one. That's one of those things where it's just like the epic disconnect between Fox News and the shit that they say, the type of racial profiling, stereotyping that they do on a regular basis. That surprisingly, people like Geraldo actually came and said, that they're undocumented, they're not illegals. So you got to give him some credit there, and I do.
And again, it's not like he hails from like hillbillies that never had an intelligent thought like those two guys. Their names are eluding me right now, like Ducey and Kill Me.
Well, you know what I gotta say, about this whole segment, ain't it a Ducey?
Somebody kill me.
I had to work it in somehow. Excellent, Sean. Excellent. All right, that's all we got. That is the Friday night lineup that we've got. Short panel or small panel today. Sean and I. Sean's got to get going pretty soon, don't you, sir?
Yes, I do want to thank Mr. Thomas Reynolds, sir. It was a pleasure being on your broadcast yet again, and I shall return soon. And you guys should totally check that out. I'm not smart enough to remember the link that I've been texting out all day, so Jeff will tell you where to find it.
Yeah, if you want to join Tom's show or listen to it, some say info, myliberals.com, and of course he'll let you know how if you want to call into the show. I've called in a couple of times myself. I'm not tooting my own horn or anything like that, but toot. I've called in a couple of times. There's a great group of regular callers who are actually regular viewers of TYT Community as well. I've talked to a lot of fantastic people while talking to Tom, and talking to Tom himself is always a fun time. So, check him out, man. myliberals.com, and, hashtag MyLibsLive. He tweets us out a lot, too, and we appreciate that, Tom. Anyway. As far as that goes, like I said, that's our show for this week. We apologize we can't stay around for questions this week. I promise the next time we're back on the air, when I'm in the new studio, we'll do some Q&As. So you've got plenty of time to gather questions, tweet hashtag TYT Community. If you want to do Q&As and stuff, and we're going to look at getting some good panelists on in the coming weeks. So, and of course, I've got a big announcement, which is kind of disastrous in a way, but it will lead to good things. So, I'll be giving you that sometime next month, sometime in October. I'll be delivering that news. So, from everybody here at TYT Community, I just want to throw out a couple of shout-out links, of course. Subscribe to us. Even if you found the show through the network, as Nick always likes to remind me, make sure to hit the subscribe button. It's much appreciated. Sean, don't do it. Patreon.com/TYT Nation if you want to be a patron. Do not hit that. Do not hit that button, Sean. It's over with. I already did the shout out. Haha.
I just wanted to click the sound just to get you to rush because I thought it would be funny. But yeah, support us on Patreon. Links always in the description. We really appreciate it. It helps a lot. These guys, I don't know if you know, we might fight on air sometimes, not tonight. But I really care about them. They're my good friends, and we really appreciate your support.
Absolutely. Everybody here at TYT Community appreciates your support, especially me, who uses, of course, that to basically try and improve the quality of the show. And I think over the last few months we've really seen a huge bump up in the quality that we've been able to provide to you guys. Streaming issues aside, because we don't have anything to do with that. Apparently YouTube is just terrible with their streaming software, hardware, or whatever you want to call it. But we have seen a huge jump in the things that we've been able to do, and it's been just amazing being able to, work with all this interesting, this technology to be able to show you clips and stuff during the show, to do graphics, etc. And I think it really is a great thing when it comes to the show. It makes it more entertaining. So I want to thank patrons for helping make that happen. Because that's what we're using your money for, man. I'm not going out and getting 12 packs every Friday night. Wish I could, but that's not what I use that for. I use it to make the show a much better experience every time around, and I will continue to keep doing so. So thank you again to all the patrons that support us. Patreon.com/TYT Nation if you want to be a patron and support us as well. If not, you can support us through liking this video, sharing this video, writing comments, going and liking our clips, watching those, sharing those out. All that stuff helps us immensely. And so, like I said, we wouldn't be here without your guys' support. Okay, so enough about that. Facebook.com/TYT Nation, Facebook.com/TYT Community. Tweet me at Jeff's Politics. Tweet Sean. Follow Sean. I am Sean90. And check us out on the Twitter and on the Facebook. And that's about it. I want to thank you guys for coming out, and I want to wish you guys a great weekend. No show next week. I will be moving, literally. New studio. It's going to be fantastic. And I can't wait to come back after the move in the new place. So we'll see you then. Have a great weekend. Have a great week. I'll see you guys later, probably in TYT Talk Chat. I can never get around to it. And Sean, thank you again for being on the show.
Always a pleasure, Jeff. Bye, guys. See you in a couple weeks.
We'll see you later. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Goodbye, Captain.